In 1917, the Bolsheviks overthrew Russia's Tsar. It was the beginning of a Soviet Union that became increasingly hostile towards the arts. But now, to mark 100 years since the revolution, London's Royal Academy is putting on a show of art from that period. Belle Lupton went along to learn more.
A world turned red. 100 years since the Russian Revolution, London's Royal Academy is taking us back to its immediate aftermath. The bookends of this exhibition are two important dates in Russia's history. The first, 1917, is etched into the nation's collective memory, a year that saw the Tsar toppled by a revolution to be replaced by communist leadership. The second, 1932, marked a watershed in Russian art as Stalin sought to subdue creativity to Soviet aims. At first, the arts thrived, but this optimism evaporated as Lenin's movement turned into Stalin's military dictatorship. In April 1932, Stalin decreed that from now on, only one kind of art would be allowed: socialist realism. That meant only figurative art that could be used as propaganda. But just a few months later, art critic Nikolai Punin curated an exhibition that celebrated not only abstract art, but also diversity. The show was a look back at 15 years of Soviet artistic endeavour, and it's the inspiration for this exhibition.
1932 was a watershed year because this huge exhibition, which opened in Leningrad, then transferred to Moscow. And when it got to Moscow, quite a lot of the avant-garde art was taken out. Malevich had his own room in the exhibition, and there were far fewer works by him when it got to Moscow, and the catalogue was suppressed. And then with Stalin's great purges, many of the avant-garde artists are sent to the Gulag.
The show's curators say it's impossible to exhibit the Russian art of this period without dealing with its history. Alongside celebrated artworks, you'll also find artefacts and lesser-known names.
This is a major blockbuster exhibition in the UK because it doesn't just present the very famous artists of the avant-garde like Chagall and Kandinsky, but it also introduces international audiences to artists like Petrov Vodkin, Isaac Brodsky, artists who are household names in Russia, but are definitely not here in the West. What's very interesting about this show is this huge range of artistic movements which were produced in a very tight time frame. So you can see this shift that occurred after the Russian Revolution from the very kind of formalist, abstract painters like the suprematists moving on to this new political style of art which was known as socialist realism.
Lenin famously called art an appendage, useless unless for propaganda. Now his propaganda hangs on the walls of an institution that celebrates art in its own right. A small victory for the artist against one of the most murderous chapters in human history. Belle Lupton, TRT World, London.